What's going on YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here bringing you another video. Today I'm bringing a video on Kamen Rider Build episode 11. The episode is called Burning Dragon. It's a really good episode. It isn't one that's huge on story, but it actually has some really important moments in it as far as the story goes. And it also introduces us to our secondary rider for the season, which is really cool. And we'll get into that during this episode. So for starters, the episode basically begins with us seeing the members of the group inside the base, where they're discussing about Katsuragi and how he may be Bloodstark. So they mention all that, and eventually we also have this moment where Sento ends up saying that he looked up on his computer through the database that they had for Katsuragi if they could find anything about Bloodstark, and when they put in Bloodstark, what came up was a video file which was similar to the build project file, where we ended up seeing a whole explanation of how build works, but in this case it was about the Transstream gun, and they explained how with this gun you can transform, and one of the things that's really important to know was that they mentioned how it includes the ability for voice modifications, which implies that that's why you know, for example, why Gentaku's voice is different from Nightrogue's voice, because of the fact that the voice modification feature is a thing that exists. If it weren't for that factor, they would have the exact same voice, and then it would be no issue of knowing who's who. But clearly that isn't the case. Additionally, that also helps why we don't hear the same voice when we hear the different sound clips of Katsuragi versus when we hear Bloodstark's voice. They don't sound the same, but they might be. They might. I don't know yet. Still not clear yet. That's the other thing. We don't have any complete confirmation yet whether or not they are the same person. They may be entirely different. That's the thing that's really important to remember. So anyway, following all this, they end up discussing, you know, what can they do. You know, they don't have any bottles really, and one of the things that happens is that Sento ends up taking the dragon bottle from Ryoga, and he says that maybe I could use the dragon and the lock bottle to deal with him, but it's fairly dangerous because when they try the dragon lock combination to do Key Dragon, it doesn't really work very well because he'll be fighting for a while and then it will short circuit and he'll start burning, like his body will start to burn and everything, and it will be dangerous. So that's a concern, of course. But then at the same time, what they also remember is the fact that Bloodstark mentioned to Ryoga when they were fighting how he had reached the hazard level 3.0 and had awakened himself, meaning that he is able to use the build driver. So that's something important to note. But then what happens is that we end up seeing at the place where the we see in the Totoo Institute that Gentaku is taking charge as the Prime Minister of Totoo, and we see the two of the Prime Ministers, but the thing is that Gentaku basically blames the Prime Minister, I believe from Saito, about maybe having some connections to Faust and potentially being at fault and everything, and basically making them worried. Also bringing them more and more towards you know, getting involved in, you know, using military forces, and they even say, like, you know, we won't be holding back for long. That's something that they kind of hint at. So that's something that's really important. And following all this, the two ministers that are just holograms disappear, and then at that point we end up seeing Bloodstark appear before Gentaku and his assistant, and basically he comes in there talking to them, and suddenly two of the Totoo guards come over to stop him because he's seen as this evil threat that they remember from before. But the thing is that what do you call it, Bloodstark uses some of his abilities to actually, like, I think kills one of them and then like knocks the other one out in a really serious way. So that's something important to note. But then following this, what also happens is that, you know, Bloodstark asks about where the Pandora's box is, and he says, like, you have to gain my trust because I'm not just so willing to give it to you after what you pulled before. And so that's something that's kind of essential to remember about him, because of the fact that, you know, he ran away with the Pandora's box when he was meant to not do that, and also he knocked out the camera that Gentaku was viewing everything that Bloodstark was doing from. So that's something important. Additionally, following all this, we end up seeing back at the base or whatever, that they mention how, you know, Sento Ryoga should use the build driver and everything, but they say that it's not going to be as simple as just using it. He has to synchronize with his dragon companion in order for that to really work. And what ends up happening is that suddenly there is a distress call for a Smash Monster attack going on, so they end up going out to figure out what's going on. That means Ryoga and Sento. Ryoga dresses up like he typically does occasionally, where he'll dress up in some weird outfit, like he puts on a mustache or whatever. But eventually what happens is that they end up encountering some Guardians and also, what do you call it? Night Rogue. And so they end up fighting Night Rogue, and at one point Bloodstark also appears. But additionally what happens is that Sento grabs the build driver, uses the Dragon and Law combination, and does okay for a while with that combination for the key dragon form. But at one point it begins to short circuit again and he starts to burn, so then he de-transforms basically, and at that point things aren't working very well, and Sento calls for his dragon companion, which this time when he goes to put the bottle in him, it responds by like hurting him, so it doesn't work very well. And at that point he doesn't know what to do, and just in general things are going well. But when Bloodstark appears and Bloodstark's helping them out, he actually defends them from attacks that Night Rogue is trying to do against them, because for some reason he has some reason to do it. I mean, we still don't know exactly what it is that's making it so that he's not attacking them head on like Night Rogue is doing. Why is it? We don't know yet. We don't know why he's still defending them, yet still comes across as being nasty. He's sort of, he's still like the biggest mystery as to why he is the way he is. So anyway, eventually they do get away and they return back to the base, and at that point, since Sento had been really injured, he ends up staying in a bed, and in the meantime we end up seeing that they're trying to figure out what they can do. And the thing is that what's explained to Ryoga is that he has to gain a real strong sense of emotion and connection to everything and why he wants to fight, other than just clearing his name, but really, having a real reason and passion for it. And that's something that's really important to him. So following this, what ends up happening is that Ryoga realizes that he has to do this, and he thinks, and so then he thinks about that. But in the meantime, we end up seeing Mizora. Now, you might remember from the last episode that the cafe was bugged, and you may with like the little microphone chip, and that actually was Sawa. Because what happens is we end up seeing that Sawa is snooping all around the place, and she ends up snooping underneath where the entranceway is, and doesn't see. And at that point, it gives a clear indication that yes, that was her. And Mizora goes up to her and basically says, "Is this yours?" Basically hinting at the fact that she knows that there's something more going on with Sawa, that she isn't as innocent as she comes across. So at that point, we end up seeing someone trying to cover up for what she's doing, but still it doesn't work very well. Mizora knows that she's not who she says she is, and at that point we end up seeing in the meantime that Gintaku speaks to Nanba about what's been going on and how the Pandora's box needs 3 more bottles for some reason. We don't know if that means that it will activate again or if there's something else to it, but apparently they need 3 more bottles for something to happen regarding the Pandora's box. Again, obviously they gained a lot of bottles from Sento, so that's something very important to note, but just in general, very interesting. So following this, what happens is that I'm trying to think now, what was it? Mizora contacts Nanba about what's been going on and about how Mizora's on to him, and eventually Mizora's on to her, and eventually Mizora is kidnapped. So then, following all this, we end up seeing back at the cafe that Ryoga thinks that he should go visit the grave of Kasumi, his girlfriend, and see if maybe he can come through that kind of emotional feeling that he felt before. So in the meantime, we end up seeing that Sento wants to still work, so he actually worked on the Beat Closer, which is a weapon that will be used for the new rider. It's not really clear as to how that happens and then what happens later occurs, but I'll explain what I mean later. But anyway, following all this, what happens is that suddenly they get an email message from Sawa, because Mizora first of all talks about how she thinks that Sawa isn't who she says she is, and then following this they get this message, and what it is a video message of Sawa being put under the gas, the nebula gas that Faust uses, and suddenly she's transformed into the Stretch Smash, which is a new Smash. It's not a hazard form, it's the actual Smash monster, so that's new and that's interesting. And at that point we see Sawa as a Smash monster, and she goes out to cause trouble throughout the area. So at that point they realize that they have to go stop her and figure out things. We end up seeing Sento going out there and going after her, and in the meantime we also see Ryoga finding this letter when he goes to drop off flowers at Kazumi's gravesite, and he ends up reading the letter, and it's about, you know, him moving on past her, and you know, that she's always going to be watching him, and she wants him to grow as a person and help others with his hands and really grow and really just be a helpful person rather than focusing only on Kazumi, because as much as she loves him and as much as he loves her, it's so important that he moves on. Sorry about that. So anyway, eventually we end up seeing Sento appear before Sawa as the Stretch Smash. He ends up transforming into the Key Dragon form, which again, it works for a while, but then it short circuits again. At that point, what happens is that the bottles fall out of the driver because he just can't hold himself up. He's not doing very well, and he struggles to face the Stretch Smash. And also Night Rogue appears as well, which he causes trouble. And at one point, he tries to go over to steal the two bottles, the Dragon and the Lock bottle, but we end up seeing Ryoga appear, and he ends up running over, grabbing the bill driver, which I forgot to mention that Night Rogue steals Sento's bill driver. And what happens is that Ryoga grabs the bill driver from a Night Rogue and suddenly puts it on his belt, on where his belt should go, or whatever. You know, he puts the bill driver on himself, and then he grabs the bottles, which Sento throws at him. So he throws both the Dragon and the Lock bottles so that Night Rogue can't get to them. But he only puts in one bottle, because the thing that's very important about the about how this works when it comes to Ryoga is Ryoga uses the Dragon, and this time it actually collapses into form the form that allows it to go into the belt. And when he does that, he's only able to put in one bottle. He can't put in two bottles like Build can normally. So that's something that's very interesting. Yeah, he doesn't have best matches, basically. He just has forms. So in his case, he just puts in the Dragon bottle, and he does the typical transformation stuff, but in this case he becomes Kamen Rider Cross, which is cross, and then like there's a dash with a Z at the end. That's how you basically pronounce it, but you pronounce it as Cross, you know. And so the thing is that we end up seeing Ryoga fight. He ends up using the Be Closer weapon that we saw earlier that Sento was working on. And it's a really cool weapon, and Ryoga does all sorts of really cool attacks. He summons, he does like this amazing finishing move, and he's just a really, really awesome rider. He has some really cool moves, really powerful. It just comes across as just amazing. And in the end, he really quickly defeats Sawa in a Stretch Smash form, but he does some good damage to Night Rogue. Eventually, they do end up, after everything is said and done, taking the essence from Sawa in her Smash form, and she basically confesses that she has been lying to them this whole time, and she hasn't been right by them, and she explains that she's been a spy. Now that's basically where the episode ends, but yeah, pretty good. As far as things go with the preview, what we do see is that it's going to get even more intense. We are going to see that Sento is still going to only have the dragon in the lock bottle, at least for now. But what we end up seeing, and I don't know if it's because he's using bottles that he's had available to him that maybe were in the base, but he just didn't bring them with him, or if these are ones that he retrieved. I'm guessing it's ones that were in the base already, because in the next episode he's gonna have the Kaizuk Rasha form, which if you're wondering what Kaizuk and Rasha is, Kaizuk is like pirate and Rasha is train. So so basically he becomes a rider that has like this, that ends up having like a bow and arrow thing, but rather he becomes like an archer, but rather than shooting arrows, he shoots trains. Again, I'm really sick, so that's why I've been coughing a lot. But anyway, that should be cool. In Sentai, they've had both a season about pirates and a season about trains, so, Kaizuk Sentai Gokaiger and Rasha Sentai Tokyuger. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, that's about it for me. I love to hear your opinions. Did you guys enjoy this episode? Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So until then, guys, I'm Crazy Samurai 71, and goodbye, guys.